Am I the asshole for harshly waking my son up? My wife, F27, started a new job last week and has to leave the house earlier. I work from home. Before this, she would be the one to wake up our son, 8, and I, M35, would be the one to pick him up from school. Since last week, I'm always waking him up. My son is definitely a mama's boy and listens more to my wife. I noticed it first when I started waking him up. When my wife woke him up, he would immediately get out of the bed. With me, he would always have an attitude, and I had to remind him multiple times to get up and get ready for school. I discussed this with my wife, and she told me to be patient with him, since the new change messed up his schedule as well. This morning I wanted to wake my son up again, but he wasn't having it as usual. He asked me to let him sleep for 10 more minutes. I agreed and left the room. I went back to his room 10 minutes later and told him to wake up. He refused, pulled the blanket over his head, and told me to get out of his room. I was really sick of his behavior, so I went to the kitchen, filled up a glass with ice and water, and went back to his room. I asked him again if he would get up, and when he said no, I poured the water over his head. This is how my older brother woke me up one time when I was a kid, and we can laugh about it now. My son screamed and started crying. His pillow and blanket were wet, but he finally got up and got ready. He was mad at me and didn't talk to me during the drive to his school. I told him that I didn't want to do this, and that I hoped that waking him up will be more peaceful next week. When my wife got home, my son immediately ran to her and told her about the incident. She was furious and yelled at me. She told me that I completely overreacted and that I should be ashamed of myself. I tried to explain her that our son made it impossible to wake him up in a normal way, but she refused to listen and made me sleep on the couch in my own house. While I understand that my method was a bit extreme and immature, but I wish my wife would have understood my point of view more. I guess I should have discussed this method with her before waking him up. Or maybe I should have FaceTimed her so she could see how difficult he was being. Am I the asshole?